Right, folks, Jesus Christ, this is the most irritating thing that I think I've ever had to do in this game. How this got into the game and its current information is actually beyond me. So what we're going to be doing today is testing the Mavericks in Sim in the test flight. And I'm going to use an RB test flight to give you an example because it allows me to use sim controls. Everything is the same, but I can also go on the third person camera so you can see what the RB UI looks like, and you can compare RB to sim directly and see where things are all going wrong. So test flight, realistic battles, Mavericks are selected. Let's go. Right, so engine's already running. Let's go. So what I'm going to show you first is how best to use these in the easiest way that I've found without any problems. And then I'm going to show you the ways in which you will find problems and not be able to use them if you don't do it in this way, because I've been doing this now for about an hour. And the sheer amount of finagling required is just obscene. Right, so what you want to do is you want to point vaguely at the target area, and then you want to switch to the Maverick camera and immediately press the button for activate target point. And what that will do is ground stabilize the Maverick camera to the point that you were pointing at when you press the button. So I've actually put the view change mode and the activate target point mode on my stick, so I can very quickly press them back to back, except it hasn't worked, so in RB. Right, so it's ground stabilized now, and then you lock the tank, and then you get that HUD symbology, and then you fire the missile. Right, so when I first got these, I was thinking to myself, well, that square right there on the HUD, surely that's where the Maverick's pointing, so why can't I just point that at the target and press the lock button and fire? And you can, but it's the most iffy as fuck thing in the universe. And let me just shut Discord down because that noise is driving me insane. Right, so if you're in the third person view, then when you press the Maverick lock button or the fire button, they're both the same. It's sort of like when you're using a heat-seeking missile and you can fire it to spool it up. Then you'll get this little green thing on your crosshair. If you are in third person, this works quite reliably, although it's very difficult to be precise enough. There we go. So that's locked it up, and it's fine, right? So you can fire like that. But if you're just trying to do it from the cockpit, it seems to be working now. But I think that's because I was in third person before. When you're in first person all the time, like in Sim, you don't get the option to change. You're stuck in first person. And in the instance of you being stuck in first person, it just never ever seems to work. And I cannot understand why the fuck that is. So it'll probably work now just to be a complete piece of shit and, you know, make me look like an idiot. But in all of my testing so far, if you purely try to do this in first person, it doesn't work. So I'm pressing the lock button. That's the gun sight that's come up on the screen there. And it's just not working. And if you say to me in the comments, yeah, well, you were pointing it too low, just trust me, I've spent a lot of time. That's on the horizon. And look, it's slightly below the horizon. So that marker is actually slightly below the point of aim. And in RB, when you're using the mouse cursor view, you'll notice that this green thing that shows up on the screen when you press the lock button actually appears slightly above the center of your mouse cursor. So it doesn't line up properly. Okay. Right. So the other thing that you might try and do, if you don't have head tracking, this might actually be fine. But with head tracking, the second you go into the Maverick site, it looks as if I'm moving it with my head. I'm not. You have to use the mouse. And it hasn't worked. Somehow head tracking seems to interfere with the camera. You literally have to ground stabilize the camera by pressing the activate target point button in order for it to work. Right, so the final issue that you might run into is you might try and activate the target point before you enter the Maverick camera. So my activate target button point is on my stick. So there it is, look. And now for some reason it's just not allowing me to mark new points. It will just randomly decide that you're not allowed to mark points anymore. And I do not understand the logic or the reason behind it. But if you are facing down at a Tunguska and you're pointing at a target, whoops, and it's not letting you mark the point, then it's going to be a bad time. So that is why the procedure is point yourself to where you think a target is. Obviously, because we're in RB, we actually know because we can see the markers. But in Sim, you'll have to just sort of finagle it. You'll have to guess based on spawn points on the map. You switch to the Maverick camera. You ground stabilize it. Then you use your mouse to lock the target. And then you can either fire in the Maverick camera view, or you can switch to the HUD and fire from the HUD. So, yeah, I don't think they're going to be very effective just because, well, obviously Tunguska literally just has to point at you and press one button to lock you and then fire. And if you're flying directly at it, then it's not going to have much trouble trying to kill you, is it? Whereas you have to switch view, stabilize camera, use your mouse, which uses the same hand as your joystick. How Gaijin did not think that this was a problem, I have no fucking idea. I've had to bind the Maverick launch button to my mouse and my stick because obviously if I'm trying to fire something with a joystick, I'm having to aim that something with a mouse, then I need the same hand to do both, and it just doesn't really work. And even now, I've been doing this for ages, I'm still fumbling. But yeah, when you get a nice, good long-range shot, it does look incredibly satisfying because the Mavericks are visible. They show up as a red tracer speck, and you can see them from miles away. And once the motor burns out, watching them fly towards the target is incredibly satisfying. But next time the top tier sim event rolls around, I will be attempting to use these in a live game, and I do not have high hopes whatsoever. But yeah, hopefully that's helped you out a bit, folks. I have yet to test it in EC. I don't know if it'll even work to lock pillboxes because it doesn't work. You cannot lock ships with it. These boats, you can't lock them up. I haven't actually tried it against aircraft yet, but I'm incredibly doubtful because you can't ground stabilize to something behind a plane. Yeah, it's just not going to work. But yeah, if you have any other questions, then be sure to let me know. One thing of note that I may have already mentioned this, but fire secondary weapon is obviously the same if you're using the weapon select as where is it? Fire air-to-ground missile. So that and this are the same, so long as you're using the select weapon thing. And there's also another keybind for weapon lock air-to-ground. The Maverick, when you press the fire button, it it for maybe a second to 3 seconds sort of fires a laser at the target. It's not actually a laser, but for the sake of explanation, we'll call it a laser. And that's that green thing that you see on your crosshair in third person. That's what this is. But you can also have that same exact effect by just firing the missile. So if you press the fire button, it's the same as the weapon lock button. But the difference is that if you press this to lock the target, you then have to press this to fire, or that. But if you use this, you basically just press this to lock, and then you press this again to fire. And there's no annoying tone like there is with Sidewinders, but the idea behind it is the same as it is for heat-seeking missiles. You basically warm it up and then you fire it. But yeah, that's everything I can think to say. If I've missed anything, or if anything is not clear, then leave a comment and I will address it. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching, folks, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.